So I don't know how much you guys know about AngelList. I'm not sure if you're aware of what sort of traction we've had in terms of changing the market recently. So what I'll do is I'll quickly run through a few things. I'll basically say why you should care about it and why it should matter to you. Then I'll give you a bunch of information about valuations, who's investing in these sorts of companies, a little bit of information about trends as well. And then we can also talk about how you can make the most of AngelList. So these are some numbers that we've got at the moment. It's pretty, because of the securities regulations, we can't actually track the top number very well, so it's probably double that in reality. But as far as we know, this is what we've done so far. And we haven't been around very long at all. In various forms, I suppose we've been around for 3 years or something, but we've only really been serious for like 18 months to 2 years. So the point is there's a lot of activity on AngelList. A lot of deals are getting done. I would say more than 80% of the seed and Series A's deals in the US are on AngelList. Whether or not they meet investors through AngelList or not is another matter, but almost all of them are on there. I would say all of the best investors in the world in seed and Series A deals are on AngelList as well. There's a lot of activity. And then we've also got this talent product that's doing pretty well. We only launched it 2 months ago. And we're already the biggest platform for developer and designer recruiting in the world. So this is what we try to do. I'm not here to harp on about AngelList as a company. I just wanted to give you an idea of why I think it would matter to you. Why would you use AngelList? I've spent a lot of time in and around the venture industry, and this is what I think. I think you can't get the best price for your round if you're not on AngelList. And the reason I think that is mostly related to first principles and not related to anything particularly interesting I've seen in the last couple of months. And that is, like, if you're trying to create an efficient market for your company, you want the best information. Like, an efficient market is a market with perfect information, right? And perfect information involves getting the most actors on both sides. And obviously, if you're raising money, on one side it's just you, but on the other side are investors. And the more investors you get involved, the more accurate a price you will get to. It's like, that is just a basic market structure. If you don't get introductions to all the possible investors, all the investors that are possibly interested in your company, you're probably not giving yourself the best shot at A, raising a round at all, and B, getting to the best possible price for that round. And because arguably all the best investors for seed and Series A deals, at least, are in the world are on AngelList, you've got to be on AngelList to get the best price for your round. Second one I've already talked about. And the third is just about running a funding process in a smart way. I mean, the old way was you run up and down Sand Hill Road for weeks and weeks, and you put everything else in your company on hold, and you meet with a lot of people face to face, a huge amount of time wasters who don't know anything about your business. The new way, and I would say the smarter way, is you get as many introductions as you possibly can on AngelList, and then you Skype screen with a few of them, you choose who's relevant, and obviously they choose you as well, and then you get commitments from the ones that really matter and the ones that are going to pay the right price. It's a much, much, much more efficient way to run a fundraising round. The best companies get rounds done on AngelList in 48 hours. We've seen companies get over $1 million in 48 hours very easily. They're like the absolute hottest companies. With really good traction, whatever else. If you run a solid campaign on AngelList and you're a fundable company, there are a hell of a lot of unfundable companies out there. I don't think any of them will be in this room. 2 to 4 weeks, which is sort of what it would usually take if you're going up and down Sand Hill Road, but the difference is your time commitment. So anyway, it's just a much more efficient way to run around. Like, it's not having to meet face to face with absolutely everyone. How do you use it? Everyone sort of thinks AngelList is this like magical black box, and they don't know how it works, and they see all these companies trend on AngelList and do really well, and they think it's like a really hard process to understand. It's really, really basic. Give the investors information so they get interested in your company at all. I won't give you the stat, but the amount of companies that have incomplete profiles on AngelList is pretty shocking, because they expect to raise money without giving the investors any information. So just complete your profile, and you're 80% of the way there. Build a good profile, I should say, and most of that is being complete. Secondly, use it like a social network. I'll go into the profile thing more in a sec. What I mean by that is AngelList is effectively LinkedIn for early stage investing. And you should think of it the same way in terms of your usage pattern. Like other people's status updates, follow them, comment on stuff, support people, add as many people as you possibly know. That way you will get noticed on AngelList, and people noticing you means they may notice your company, and then means they may request an intro or suggest it to someone else or whatever else. Just use it like you would use Facebook or LinkedIn. It's really, really straightforward. And among that, under that point is, don't be shy about using it in the same way. Like, people are on AngelList to do deals. So contact them. If you've got a deal for them that you think will work for them, contact them. And then thirdly, match your online presence with your offline presence. So get all the people that you know in real life to follow you on AngelList. Ask them to share you with their followers. If there's someone who is like a second or third degree connection in real life, but you don't quite know how to reach them, but it's possible, in all likelihood, you can reach them on AngelList. We've got all sorts of functionality for you to get introduced to people through mutual connections. So use that functionality and use your offline networks, bring them online, bring them onto AngelList, and then use them to get the introductions that you need. So elaborating on the first point, I obviously didn't finish that title. Complete, specific, and follow. Complete. Yeah. Number one. Exactly. You've got to be complete. Don't have a stuttered profile or stunted. This is all really, really straightforward. Fill out every single section. We don't give you that much room. We don't let you stuff up, whether it comes to presenting the information or trying to get introduced to investors or whatever else. Anything that is not within the etiquette of the AngelList community, you won't be allowed to do. So you can't blab on too much on AngelList. You can't add too many images. You can't get introductions to people that are going to think it's weird that you've been introduced to them. We take care of all of that. So if you're given space, use it. If you're given a connection to someone, use it. Anyway, so just complete all the sections, every single one. Most people totally miss the second tab, which is the fundraising tab, which is what investors are really interested in. Now on this completion point, if you're worried about privacy, the first thing I would say is you're not going to get anyone interested if you don't give anyone any information. And then secondly, we've got pretty sophisticated privacy controls if you want to use them. So you can block certain companies, you can block certain investors and whatever else if you want. That's pretty straightforward. Just use the privacy controls in the top left. But overall, I would highly, highly recommend making your profile public, which just means that the front tab, the overview tab, is viewable by everyone. And that's just basic information about your company, who works there, and 500 characters on your product. The second tab will only ever be viewable to investors. And they're not just any investor, they're investors that have passed our accreditation test and then have also been manually vetted by us as well. So that's on the profile. So just complete it. I would err on the side of giving more information rather than less, because at the end of the day, you're serious about raising money, give the investors information, see who's interested, and get the process over and done with as quickly as possible. Be specific. I don't know how many of you have read a blog called Less Wrong, but there's a fantastic post on there called Be Specific, and I'd highly commend it. It's a principle that you should apply every day in conversation, whatever else, but particularly when you're pitching. Investors see hundreds and hundreds of companies every year. We only give you a certain amount of space in your AngelList profile. Focus on the one thing that you do that no one else does, the absolute hardest thing that you do. You probably think there are 20 things that you do that are unique. In reality, there's probably one thing you do that is unique, if that. So a good exercise to do here is actually using AngelList. Write down the 20 things you think you do that no one else in the world does. Then get on AngelList, go to angel.co/finder, and search in some of your markets, so healthcare IT, mobile health, whatever. And just click through all the company profiles, and as you notice someone else doing one of the things on that list, cross it all off, and you probably get to one or two things, and then focus on those things in your profiles. Because that's how an investor's mind works, right? They are on AngelList or meeting people in real life every day, and they see any number of innovations in your space. And if you're just saying things to them that they've seen before, they're going to switch off really quickly. So be really specific about the one thing that you do that no one else does, as much as possible. And then the tooltips, whenever you click into a field, a little pop-up will come up when you're filling out your profile. We put a lot of thought into that copy, and we think that if you follow it, you'll end up with a really good profile. So just use them. There's no need for me to harp on any more about what makes a good profile, because it's all there ready for you. So that's all pretty straightforward. Now to the more interesting stuff. As I said, that's all pretty basic, but it's really, really important you get that right. Otherwise, you won't get attention on AngelList. We have a whole bunch of really interesting data, obviously, having done that many transactions on AngelList. There's one for you. The average Rock Health round done on AngelList is 5.1, so you guys have got a nice little premium over the market of 25% or so at the moment. That 4.6 is the middle of your box and whisker plot for the Rock Health companies. Then once you start compounding factors like what school you went to, what companies you've worked at in the past, you can get to, you can sort of get it might go up, might go down, and whatever else, but that's the base for Rock Health. Now, go to that site, angel.co/valuations, and you can have a play with all of this data for yourself. We just released that last week, and I think it'll be pretty interesting for you guys. Now, what this solves is the cold start problem when you're raising a round with respect to valuations, as in, you have a meeting with an investor, and they ask you, so what's your price? Like, what are you going to be valued at? And you don't really know because you haven't really socialized it with enough investors. So that's why we released this, to give you a better, to give you, like, help you have a more intelligent conversation with those first couple of investors. And there are thousands and thousands of data points we've used to construct that. So the likelihood of that being within market at the moment is very high. The only other point I'd make about valuations at the moment is that this Series A crunch that people are hearing about is very real. We are seeing it a lot on AngelList. Very few companies are raising decent sized Series A rounds, like $3 to $5 million. So if you're out there raising a seed, you guys are all different stages, and most of you are pretty early on. If you're out there raising a seed round, you should try and either raise just enough to get you to where you think you'll be able to raise a Series A, or I think more intelligently just raise absolutely as much as you possibly can and are comfortable with raising, because it's likely that you're going to need to go much further than you think to get to the level of traction that you need to raise a Series A at the moment. The reason for the Series A crunch reasons for the Series A crunch are numerous, and we can go through that in Q&A if you want. So there's a bit of info about valuations. Who's investing in what? Your Rock Health mentors and everyone at Rock Health know a lot about this and can give you a lot of information. This is just what I've seen in the last couple of months. Bessemer, particularly a guy called Ambar there, with a very long last name starting with B. He knows a lot about health insurance and the industry, so medical devices, how the distribution works between the hospitals, who pays for what, whatever else. So if your company is really, if your business model is really dependent on health insurance companies and traditional players in the industry, he's a really good guy to go to, and if you've got a good company, he'll definitely invest. S23P, that's Social Plus Capital, a guy called Chamath out of Facebook. They're getting pretty into wearable sensors. So if you're working on some sort of sensor technology, mobile health stuff, using mobile computing power to sense, to deliver some useful output to a user, they'll probably be pretty interested. Spark is really lightweight social stuff, like Runkeeper, Lyft, those sorts of investments. And by the way, if you ever want to know anyone at any of these firms, I'm really close with people at all of them. So if that's sort of your product, consider those guys. Founders Fund is anything that's just totally out there, as I'm sure you guys may have heard or read about their investment thesis. They invest in a lot of synthetic bio stuff. My personal opinion is they're nowhere near as savvy as someone like Steve Jurvetson and DFJ. I don't know how many of you guys are doing synthetic bio stuff, but Steve Jurvetson, DFJ is the man for that sort of stuff, and Rachel, who works with him. And then Founders Fund, they'll consider anything that is like category shifting. So if you guys think you've got a sort of a more far future thesis for your company, then they're probably the guys that you want to approach, the people I should say you want to approach. What angels invest, this is not at all informative, but all I wanted to show you here is that On AngelList, don't spread this number too widely, there are 632 angels that have invested in a healthcare startup. And that doesn't include deals that are currently in motion. So have invested, closed the round, whatever else. Now, a lot of these angels have invested in multiple healthcare startups, and I did do the data pool just before I got here, but I didn't have time to format it, listing who has invested the most. But the point is there are a hell of a lot, and the reason I showed you this slide is to show you that there are a lot of angels funding healthcare startups on AngelList, but also that to start getting this idea into your head that you can really target investors on AngelList. So if you go to that Finder tool, angel.co/finder or angel.co/people/investors, you can search by market, by location, by investor type, by how many investments they've made in a certain space, by what school they went to. Like, you can really, really target people on AngelList. And for angel, obviously we're not just angel investors, there are plenty of VCs on AngelList. For angel investing, it's a really personal thing. So I'd highly recommend that you target based on all of those things. Who used to work with me? Who used to work at the same company as me? Who's an alumni at the same university? Here's some trends in healthcare that I've noticed recently. I should have started the presentation by saying I've got a huge soft spot for rock health type startups. I got into med school, decided not to go, but have had medical textbooks next to my desk for the last 7 years regardless. And I am known among the sort of venture guys that I work with for liking healthcare companies that aren't even that good just because they're trying to make people healthier. Anyway, so the point is I spend an inordinate amount of time looking at healthcare companies than compared to other VCs. But anyway, these are a couple of trends I've noticed across AngelList. We get 150 or so companies a day coming to AngelList, and I see almost all of them. Healthcare light is very popular. So if you're light on hardware and light on regulation, then you're in one of the hottest spaces in seed and Series A investing. If you're not light on either of those two things, just de-emphasize those two things in your pitch. Quantified self is a real trend, and but beware of making stuff that obese, diabetic, normal Americans won't use. What I tend to say about a lot of quantified self, I've been to a few meetups and whatever else, a lot of people that practice quantified self, they tend to just engage in very, very marginal thinking. As in, a lot of them will be better off to stop drinking Diet Coke and do more squats than measure like some really bizarre or peculiar hematology measure, or like trying to find some sort of pattern in their accelerometer readings. Like, that stuff doesn't really matter. You need to focus on something that's mass market. As in, if you've got a quantified self product, like, just make sure that when you're pitching it to investors, you're not pitching it. It's not as if you're pitching it at a quantified self meetup to those guys who think like really marginally. Make sure you really push the mass market appeal thing there. But that said, as I said, it's a really huge trend. A lot of investors reading all the QS blogs, going to all the QS meetups. The conference is really, really good nowadays. They very much want to hear that it's like within that, but they want to know that it's mass market. The other thing is, most VC investors that invest in seed and Series A deals don't know how the healthcare system works, don't know how the insurance industry works, and don't really know anything about like blood physiology, whatever else. And it's because they've moved from software, like as sensors become cheaper, as regulation changes, as electronic health records become more prominent, whatever else. A lot of VCs who traditionally only invested in internet and software businesses are investing in healthcare, and that's absolutely fantastic for all you guys, but just be aware that you're gonna have to educate investors a lot. And this is feedback I get from startups that I talk to in this space, and also just me talking to other investors about these products. A lot of them really don't know what you're doing. So they will invest in you, and they will be fantastic investors for a whole number of reasons, but you're probably going to have to take more time than your friend who is like pitching a photo sharing app to explain what you're doing. That's somewhat obvious.